Hey Rebels, Coach Staci here. This video is part 2 in our series about boundaries. If you haven't watched part 1 about finding your boundaries, the link is in the description below. Today we're going to talk about where, when, and how to let other people know about your boundaries, as well as give a few specific scripts that you can use. Now this is really important because first, everyone's boundaries are different. One thing that might really bother you might not bother someone else. And this doesn't make you overly sensitive or wrong. It just means the other person might not realize that they're doing something to upset you. And second, if you don't tell people your boundaries, then no one will know. Now, if we assume that everyone knows our boundaries, even though we haven't communicated them, we're so much more likely to have feelings of resentment or anxiety when we spend time with that person. So next up, setting expectations. Sometimes setting a boundary can be as easy as setting expectations well beforehand. As an example, if you'd like to have more veggies available at your weekly family dinner, offer to bring some. If someone objects and says, "We don't need vegetables," tell them you have a new recipe that you love and want to share and bring it. And if someone is talking about bringing a bunch of booze or wine, maybe just say, "Hey, no need for too many bottles. I'm keeping drinks to just dinner." And then with the expectations set, it's less of a surprise if you're eating more vegetables and drinking less. Now, there's no guarantee that others won't cross your boundaries and comment on your food and drink choices, but this initial groundwork can certainly help. Now, setting boundaries, when and where. Now, setting boundaries face-to-face can be absolutely terrifying. There's a lot of real and perceived risks involved here. Like, will you upset them? Will they still be your friend? Like, how will the rest of the event go? And it's really up to you to figure out what boundaries you want to enforce, with who, and when. And I like to think of this as picking your battles. As an example, you may have asked friends to stop doing something, but tolerate it when your 95-year-old grandmother that you see once a year does it. Now, if we look at when to set boundaries, first, it's often better to have the conversation with the person one-on-one after the fact, and not in a public situation where you might both feel overly stressed or argumentative. Setting boundaries in those situations where everyone is more likely to get embarrassed and defensive is often not productive. It's okay to have these conversations through text messages too. Some of us may feel more comfortable this way to start, and that's totally okay. But it is recommended that you set aside some time to chat with the person face-to-face whenever possible. So how to set boundaries. Now, when you talk to someone, it's important to start by saying that you really value the relationship with them and that it's really important to you. You might even mention that you're a bit nervous to bring this up, as you probably will be. Then you really just want to talk about the situation, explain to them what happened. You want to talk about it in a non-accusatory way, so you don't want to finger pointing and say, "You did this to me," but just have a conversation with them and explain to them how those actions made you feel, but then also tell them what you would like them to do instead in that situation, so that they don't leave this conversation confused about your boundaries and what you do want. Lastly, thank them for listening and thank them for being a part of this conversation. It's really, really important. So altogether, here's an example. "Hey friend or family member, so I really value our friendship and I'm really kind of nervous to talk about this. But every time we go out and I turn down dessert, you make a little comment about how it doesn't matter and how I should live a little. Now, I know you're just having fun and don't mean anything by it, but it still makes me uncomfortable because I'm really focusing on my health goals and this is something that's really important to me, and it makes it a little harder for me to stick to it." Can you avoid comments like that, or even say something supportive like, "I had so much at dinner, I can't have any dessert too. Thank you so much for listening." All right, let us know if you have any questions and if this breakdown helped you. In the next video, we'll talk about what to do when you're right in the middle of a situation, how to stand up for yourself in that case, and how to hold your boundaries. Terrifying, I know, but we've got your back.